We want to welcome to the show Ken Gray. Ken Gray is a former special agent in the FBI, currently a distinguished lecturer in the University of New Haven Department of Criminal Justice. Ken also teaches courses in Homeland Security. Ken, probably the most qualified person in the world to talk to this topic. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Maybe you could just explain to us, first of all, we are going to have a look at the situation with Trump. We're going to have a look at the footage. We're going to get your expertise on that. But what was your role in the FBI? Like, what would you do? Do they have ranks in the FBI? Where did you get? What was your? What does a special agent do in particular?
So, special agents do investigations, collect up evidence for cases, and other tasks as required by law. I spent my time primarily focused in on counterterrorism matters, right. But I also worked national security matters. Okay. I was a crisis manager for our division, and for 9 years I was a member of the New Haven SWAT team.
Wow. Okay. I've been hearing some conversations. In fact, I looked at a conversation this morning before we came on with a current Republican politician who used to be a sniper. And it was interesting to hear his take on this whole incident with, well, sorry, I don't want to downplay this assassination attempt on Donald Trump, rather than trying to downplay it whatsoever. If it's okay with you, I think what we'll do is actually have a look at the minute 45 or so of the footage that happened around Donald Trump, and then maybe just get your take on what you see before we go into what happens from here. So this is the footage from yesterday. This is the footage of Donald Trump. It's in portrait because it's on my Twitter feed, but we get everything, we see everything. And actually what I find more important, Ken, on some level, is we hear everything. We hear the conversation with the Secret Service agents after they've come in. And that's quite an interesting part of this as well. So there's about 10, 15 seconds before the attempt happens, and we'll just have a look at the footage together. Here we go.
And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Move his hair. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spare. Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready. You ready? Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move? We're clear. We're clear. Let's move. We're clear.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. My shoes.
Watch out.
Wait.
And then he makes his way back to the truck. Those images, the images of the fist pumps, which he's still doing now, and there's been some unbelievable photos that people managed to catch just through this kind of 30-second moment. They obviously will be photos that go down in the historical record as being an unprecedented incident to a former president and a current runner for president again. When you just see the incident, you've seen it, obviously with your experience and background, what do you see?
So Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the president, the vice president, and in these cases, the candidates for the next election for president. And I see Secret Service executing their job. That is that the president was busy giving his speech. At one point, he turns his head slightly, and when he turns his head slightly, you see him grab his ear, and then he drops to the ground himself. And then Secret Service agents pile on top of him, using their bodies as a shield to protect the president. Then
Yeah.
when they get him up, they form a shield around his body and then proceed to move him off the rally stage there
Hmm.
and into a suburban to leave the event and to go on to a safe area and to the hospital to have him evaluated at that point. While they had him on the ground, they were checking him to see whether or not there was additional injuries, and that continued on once they got him into the suburban. But in addition to the Secret Service agents you saw jump on top of the former president to use their bodies as shields, you also saw members of the CAT team, which is the counter assault team, the agents that were wearing the green jumpsuits and
Yeah.
having the helmets and having the long guns. Their job is to apply suppression fire if there was a continued attack on the former president, and move towards the threat to provide a safe zone for them to get the former president out of the area.
Okay.
Additionally, there were counter snipers that were above the venue that once the shot was fired, they located the sniper and they provided a counterfire to that, which neutralized the threat, killed the shooter in this case. And so there were several different components going on here by Secret Service. I thought that the time that was spent on the rally stage there, it should have been somewhat briefer. The
Right.
fact that the former president giving the fist bumps the way that he did, while it may be very colorful and may be great as far as footage goes for his campaign, I think that that had there been another shooter there, that might have been an opportunity for that shooter to deliver fire on President Trump. And
Yeah.
so I think they spent a little bit too much time on the stage, and they should have gotten him off the stage as quickly as possible, and screw the shoes that he said, wait, get my shoes.
Yeah.
He should have been taken off the stage right away and gotten to that suburban and gotten out of there. That being said, I was not there. I'm not a Secret Service agent. I'm a former FBI agent, and I'm not trained the way that they are trained. So maybe there was reasons why they were taking their time to get him off the stage that I'm unaware of.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point you just made. I never thought about that, if there was a second shooter, because it's unquestionable. And look, you know, where we sit in politics, Ken, in this show, is we sit on the left of politics, but we play a fair game. Like, we call balls and strikes, as you'd say in America. And those photographs of him pumping his fist will be, you know, on every billboard and every, you know, going up to the election. So I was thinking about what you would have thought about that happening and how much control the Secret Service has. Like, there was the conversation around January the 6th where he wanted to go to, they call the vehicle the Beast or something that he travels in, to go down to the Capitol with them, and the Secret Service agents went, "You're not going." Like, they had autonomy to say, not happening. In that instance, it looked like it was a bit of both. They had autonomy to get him off stage, but he was able to, and when I say this, it's not in a I'm not saying this like to, well, am I saying this to criticize him? I mean, it was very clever what he did from a marketing point of view, the pump fist and all that sort of thing. But they didn't quite have the autonomy to get him off stage no matter what, as you're saying. And I'd never thought, gosh, what if there was a second shooter? So that's a very interesting thing you said. And just to show people as well, this is a photo that's come out in the last 24 hours. It's a bit hard to see if you're on a smaller screen, but right here there is like a trailing bullet photo. So that was as close as it was to former President Trump, to actually no longer having former President Trump.
Had this bullet been an inch to the right or 2 inches to the right,
Yeah.
we would be having a different conversation right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we obviously here in New Zealand have a very different culture, especially around guns, than in America. Now, it's a horrible thing to say, but we sometimes joke when there is a mass shooting in America, and we'll say, oh, it must be Tuesday because there was another mass shooting, because they seem to happen. Well, I think according to maybe even the FBI, there's a number that have to die in a shooting to be a mass shooting, and they do happen every day. Like, we only ever hear about the Columbine high schools and that thing on this side of the world, but there seems to be, significant shootings every single day. So whilst this is shocking, and it's shocking to see from this point of view, it also doesn't seem out of the bag for that American gun culture. I mean, if it wasn't the president, if it was person X. Do you want to speak to that?
I think that the shocking part of this is that Secret Service has a lot of security going on at this venue.
Yeah.
That inside the secure area, nobody had a weapon on them because of the efforts that Secret Service took to they had magnetometers there, they patted down people, and no one brought a weapon into that was not law enforcement or Secret Service.
Yeah.
Outside the secure area, it was not as secure. And that's why this shooter was able to get to the position that he was able to get to and get the shot off. And so the shocking part of this is that despite all the efforts of Secret Service to make this into a secure venue, that a shooter was able to get into a position, an elevated position like this, and to get rounds off before they were taken out.
Yeah, there was a very interesting interview on the BBC quite soon after the event happened. I'm sure you've seen it, the world has seen it, about a gentleman saying that they saw someone crawling up towards the building, and they were all pointing to him to tell the police, and that the allegation, I guess, without actually knowing 100%, is that was the shooter, and that they seem to be a little bit lackadaisical. The first question I asked you was, what do you see? I guess the way to ask this question in that same sort of frame is, what don't you see? Like, do you have any critiques of what? I mean, we're a long way away, even yourself, and it's only 24 hours later. But what have you read or heard where you think, oh, I didn't see X, which they should have done?
So the FBI is engaged in doing an investigation and gathering up all the information about this, and they will be producing a report.
Right.
I don't have the benefit of the information that they are getting at this point, and so I would be hesitant to try to judge the Secret Service's performance in this particular case. I mean, it's their responsibility. A shooter was able to get off rounds towards President Trump. So there is, by de facto, a failure in security. But whether this failure in security is due to some fault in the security plan, or if this is due to some other issue, I can't say. And I think that that's what the investigation will show. What I would say is that security, it does not start on the day of the rally. Security for an event like this starts days before, weeks before, when there is an advance team that shows up and does a site survey and makes determinations of what areas need to be protected, what areas could be a potential risk. And I would be interested to see in the investigation what this site survey by the advance team had to say about the buildings in the area within the middle ground of the perimeter. The security, you think of it as concentric circles. The inner security is the secure zone where the rally was taking place. The next zone out is the middle zone, which had a couple of buildings in it. And then the far zone was at some distance. The counter snipers were there to handle the distant perimeter. The middle zone was supposed to be being handled by patrols by local and state police there, I believe. And the inner zone was being done by the fact that all the members were going through magnetometers and Secret Service was present there. And so the fact that the shooter was able to get up on top of this building, crawl to a position, and get off these shots before he was neutralized means that there was a failure in the security plan.
Yeah. Speaking of the shooter, 20-year-old, isolated male, the political games have already started around why he did this. But what we do know is he donated to a democratic cause when he was 17. and he was a registered Republican and a member of they're being described as a far-right Second Amendment group called Demolition Ranch. I guess with your former FBI hat on, when you get a suspect, which is now, I guess, confirmed because he's there and they shot him, what do you do next to find out more about who he is and why he did this?
So the FBI's investigation will concentrate in on his home, his friends, his family, his colleagues, and his social media. He has a computer there at his home, presumably. They're going to be mirroring that computer and examining it forensically to determine whether or not he had had any postings that would lead one to believe he was planning to carry this out. They will be obtaining all of his posts on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or Telegram or wherever he might have been doing postings at. That information will be taken and analyzed to try to give us an idea about what this guy was all about and what motivated him. Really, this case is not going to go to court. He's dead.
Yeah.
And so the investigation is trying to determine what happened, what went wrong, and what steps can be taken in future such cases.
You're working at the University of New Haven. That means you're surrounded by 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. And it's Sunday, your time, but you'll be getting back there tomorrow morning, I'm assuming, for work and for school. What do you think the generation who this shooter comes from will be saying tomorrow? In the old days, we used to say at work, around the water cooler, Ken. I don't know what they say today at university, but sitting around the quad, what are they going to be talking about?
So I'm sure that this will be the foremost topic of conversation about what actually happened here. There's a lot of conversation going on social media at this point, and so I'm sure that it will play out on campus as well as on social media. As far as what the thoughts are, the problem is that right at this point, very little information has been released to the public. Yeah. And so any opinions that are expressed are based upon limited data. I think that there was a press conference last night. I expect to see another press conference sometime today to put out additional information. We are learning that the gun was purchased by the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks's father. We are learning that there was explosive devices inside his car as well, and that there was also explosive material inside his residence. And so there's a lot more information to come in this. But we need to hear data to be able to form real opinions about what transpired here. This is not something that is going to be determined within hours or days. This is going to take weeks or maybe even months before we end up getting a final report. As I said, this is not going to play out in court. This is going to play out with a final report that is issued by the FBI on this particular incident. What is important to come out of this is security posture changes by the Secret Service for future such events to stop this from happening again. That happens after any type of similar type of shooting. There's always changes to the security postures.
My last question, Ken, is more of an opinion-based question. The Republican convention is starting this week. Obviously, the incident that happened yesterday has oodles of political consequences around this. Do you have any thoughts as to what this will mean politically for America, good or bad? Any opinions around that?
So I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you how this will play out. I know that the RNC starts tomorrow, that the security for the RNC, this is what's called a National Special Security event, an NSSE. It took a long time to put together the security plans for this event, and it's an indoor event as opposed to an outdoor rally. And so the security for this will be very tight. However, I'm sure that the RNC attendees will be energized because of this event, and President Trump showing his readiness by those fist bumps, and that he was not going to be stopped, not going to be deterred by this event. I am sure that that will play out over the course of the RNC.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what happens from here. Former special agent at the FBI and also distinguished lecturer at the University of New Haven, that is Ken Gray. Ken, thanks so much for giving us some time on the other side of the world to talk about this most shocking incident.
Thank you.